In. First off, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. Jeez. On behalf of the City of Inglewood, the Inglewood Airport Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Fabulous Forum, I want to welcome you to the 2015 State of the City Address. My name is Roland Talton, and I'm the president of the Inglewood Chamber of Commerce. It is the mission of the Inglewood Chamber to help our community grow through economic development by working together with large businesses and small alike. We can help to implement programs and strategies to encourage economic revitalization in our city, and that is our goal. With that, what I'd like to do, well, what I'm proud to be able to do, is to introduce to you our Masters of Ceremonies for today, Mr. Jim Hill. Just a little brief description of what he has done and what he has accomplished. Mr. Hill is one of the nation's most respected sports anchors and has been a fixture on CBS 2 in Los Angeles for more than 30 years. He played defensive back in the NFL from 1968 to 1975 with the Green Bay Packers, San Diego Chargers, and Cleveland Browns. In 2006, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and was included into the Southern California Sports Broadcasters Hall of Fame in 2010. In addition, he has been honored by the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, Los Angeles Press Club, Associated Press, United Press International, and many other organizations. He has also been recognized many times as Southern California's best sportscaster by a number of local newspapers. In addition, USA Today named him the best sports anchor in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our Masters of Ceremonies, Mr. Jim Hill.
Oh, yeah, we're back at the Fabulous Forum. It's fabulous now, isn't it? I remember when Magic was doing some things down there, and I remember on this end when Bird, you know, he kind of put a clothesline on them. There's a fight. Oh, this is just wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored and thrilled, and it is a privilege for me to be here with you today for a very, very special occasion. Inglewood is on the rise, and there's some wonderful things in store. And one of the many reasons is because of the gentleman that we will hear a little bit later on. But right now, if you please, I would like to have the posting of the colors by the Inglewood Police Department. Please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to sing the national anthem, Sabrina Barnes.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly strewn. And the rocket's red glare upon bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, and say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our invocation, please welcome to the podium Reverend James Lobdell.
Let us pray. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Help me out. Thank you, Lord. I just want to thank you, Lord. You've been so good. Been so good. Been so good. I just want to thank you, Lord. Oh, yes. Oh, good and gracious God, we are so thankful and grateful that by your grace and mercy you have brought the city of Inglewood a mighty long way. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So now we pray in the words of that great hymn, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. In your name we pray and give thanks. Amen. 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 Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Reverend, thank you very much. We have a wonderful program in store for you. And, Your Honor, Fred, you guys a little hungry? You guys a little hungry? I know you guys are a little hungry, right? Okay, we're going to take time and have lunch. And after lunch, we will continue our program. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the buffets on both sides, so please enjoy.
Myself right over here. You know what? Yeah, I'll be down there. that bug in there.
That's good. They'll be all over it, yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Just ahead of my wife.
I literally just got a text, and I'm...
Hello, welcome to the forum.
The best sounding large building anywhere in the world, take my word for it, we've played them all.
Inglewood is in the house.
Yes, sir. And we're here at the fabulous forum in Inglewood, California.
We could have chosen so many cities to finish up the last My Planet Night tour. We finished it up right here in the forum.
To play for the first time at the forum, it's a privilege.
Welcome to Inglewood, the legendary historic forum for the first ever iHeartRadio Fiesta Latina.
The forum looks amazing. Playing here for the first time, that was a dream.
I'm Nat Travis. I'm former mayor of the city of Santa Monica and a longtime friend of the Honorable James T. Butts Jr. Here's a man whose moniker on his email address is the Driven One. He literally is the Driven One. I've known him since the 80s, where my company gave exams at the Inglewood Police Department for the promotion to sergeant and lieutenant, and this man aced both of those exams, and I'm so proud to say he has the highest integrity. He comes out of a strong family. But let's go back to the Driven One again. He is a driven one with a vision.
I saw the dynamics that he brought to the police department, his leadership, his ability to work with others, to identify concerns, and then come together to address those issues and provide public safety, address quality of life issues, to be able to identify the strengths in folks and bring the right people to the table to address whatever concerns we were working on. He has transitioned that leadership here to the beautiful city of Inglewood, where he's worked together not only with the council members, but with city staff, and most importantly, with the community.
My name is Philip Sanchez, Pasadena Police Chief. Mayor Butts was an extraordinary leader as the Santa Monica Police Chief. He was collaborative, engaging. He had a strong will. If Jim wanted something to go in a particular direction, he let you clearly know that was the area or the direction we're headed in. He was brilliant at succession planning. In fact, by the last time I count, I think under his tutelage, 6 or 7 young men and women went on to be chiefs of police at major organizations.
I can remember when I moved to this city 16 years ago. City council meeting would last until after 12 o'clock at night. And now it's done in about an hour. Everyone is counted in. And this is, I think it's really, it says something about our mayor. Not to say that our previous mayor was not a great mayor, because he was, but because of Mayor Butts' previous experience, he had been prepared for this job. And so it shows what the preparedness has done for him, and also it's obvious that he have an ex-staff.
I have known Mayor Butts since 1991. As soon as he came in as Chief of Police for Santa Monica, I made it a point to go meet with him. My parents owned a church and a shelter in Santa Monica, and I wanted him to know what we were about. I wanted to get his views on his take on Santa Monica, and mostly and most important, what he was going to do about the crime in Santa Monica. He was very efficient. I don't know anyone that was more efficient, and still to this day is as efficient as he is. Very easy to work with, very understanding, doesn't make you feel like you have to rush out after speaking to him. Hawthorne's very jealous of Inglewood. He's done more for Inglewood than any other mayor, but he has done more for our South Bay and probably all of Southern California. I mean, there is no mayor that is doing what he's doing. And plus now he has a newsletter, so everyone knows what's going on in Inglewood. We see it on the news, we see it in his newsletter. He is like the cream of the crop.
I've known Mayor Butts for the past 10 years now and had the opportunity to work with him for the past 7. He's not only someone I can look up to, but also someone who I consider family. While working under the leadership of Mayor Butts at LAX, I had the opportunity to witness him create a variety of specialized assignments, promotional opportunities, and world-class law enforcement for the aviation community. Typically, people want to live in healthy communities and provide positive prospects for their future. In order to accomplish this, communities must generate revenue and create safe and attractive environments for their citizens. With the Forum, the Hollywood Park Tomorrow project, and possibly the NFL Stadium coming to the city, Mayor Butts is doing just that.
I'm Derek Steele. I'm originally born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've been here in Inglewood since 2008. Haven't lived anywhere else, and I'm not going anywhere else either. When I first moved here, it felt like home. At the time, I just wanted to be able to be in a space where I could give back, make a difference, be able to see the difference I wanted to make. So Inglewood was perfect for me when I got here in 2008. With everything that's happening right now, it was a long time coming. I think the residents that I've talked to, some of my neighbors, and my friends, we've been looking for this for quite a long time. There's been a lot of transition that has happened over the years, but this right now is going to be so impactful, not only for the folks who are here now, but for the generations of folks who are going to come in the future.
My name is Councilman Ralph Franklin, City of Inglewood in District 4. This is a very unique mayor because he includes the council members in decision making. He is known as his title as the driven one. And more importantly, he identifies that we're a team player. As we described earlier among ourselves, that he is the quarterback to our team. And so we all have a role to play, and we are infused together in a positive direction to make things happen.
I'm George Dotson, Councilman of the 1st District. Our leader now, Mayor James T. Butts, he leads by example. He's the kind of guy that you want to follow. because he's a hard worker. I've seen him here Saturday nights, Sunday, when I just come by to pick up my packet. And as far as I know, that has never happened any time before. So this guy, he bleeds Inglewood. I am so proud to be part of this council. I'm working with guys who I respect, from the mayor on down, and they put their heart and soul in any decision that we make.
My name is Dan B. Wise Jr. I'm the owner of Wise Time Brake Company, which my father established in Inglewood in 1921. 92 years in Inglewood. It's a long time. Working on the year of being 79 years of age. So I've seen all the changes being born and raised in Inglewood. The good, the bad, and the difficult. The difficult days are gone. Inglewood has turned itself around, and I think that Mr. Butts, our mayor, and the city council, and those at City Hall on the 9th floor have done a great job doing what they're doing to bring Inglewood back to its heyday.
My name is Lynn Weaver. I'm founder of Three Weavers Brewing Company. The people here, the residents as well as those who work in Inglewood, have been incredible, extremely supportive, and a very strong community, I would say, which really kind of goes with our ethos about wanting to support a community that we felt we could really help. When we first initially started Three Weavers, I wanted to be located on the west side of Los Angeles. We looked at Santa Monica, Westwood, Culver City, Marina Del Rey. We looked everywhere, and it just wasn't working out. And our real estate representative, Joe Clark, had been pushing me for like 4 months to check out Inglewood, but I had this preconceived notion of what Inglewood was, and I was completely wrong. So finally, failing one more time in Culver City, I kind of appeased him by going, okay, yes, we will check out this property in Inglewood. Just after this, please drop it, And we came out here, and it was perfect. It was beyond perfect. It was everything that, every box was checked. So it kind of started to have this synergistic relationship with the city. And when I went into the city for our permits and such, the people there were incredible. It was never, you can't do this. It was, how do we figure out a way to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish? It became something so much more.
He comes back home to Inglewood and ascends to the position of mayor of this wonderful city. And look what his tenure has brought. It's brought it because when he was in Santa Monica as our police chief, he reduced crime in this city 60-some-odd%. He cleaned up our parks so that people could go out and enjoy the parks without worrying about narcotics and all of the other kind of things that inhibit families from coming. We're standing here in front of City Hall, and I dare say in our 100-plus years in this city, James T. Butts, Jr. is probably one of the finest police chiefs this city's ever had.
The last 2 years, we've started to see the success. But the success is bigger than these big projects. I can tell you that we've put in more sidewalks in the last 3 or 4 years than we have in the last 10, 12 years. I can tell you that we've addressed the need for better streets in the last 2 years more than we've addressed in my last 12 years. Those are steps that start to be visualized once you get the city on the right track, which is what we're doing. I'm proud to be part of the City of Inglewood. We are a city that's about as diverse as you're going to find in LA County, and yet we're the example of what this type of city can do. I welcome everybody. I know there's a lot of excitement around our State of the City this year, and I can see why.
Inglewood, I think, someday will become the most unique sport complex in the United States of America. Remember, gentlemen, all roads lead to Inglewood.
Ladies and gentlemen, in 5 minutes we will begin our program. 5 minutes we begin our program. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Shh, 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 shh. I learned that from Mayor Butts. But before we start our program, I just want to thank all of you for being here. This is a wonderful, wonderful occasion. And I think what we should all do at this particular time, I want you, everybody just give yourselves a round of applause for being here. This is absolutely fabulous for all of you folks being here this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a few moments now to introduce to you some very important people. We're all important, okay? But these are the important people I want to introduce right now at the head table. First of all, Linda Bradley. Linda serves as Chief Executive Officer. Wait a minute, will you let me finish? Okay. Linda serves as Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Governing Board at Sentinel Hospital Medical Center, a position she has held since May 10th, 2010, I should say. During her tenure, she has been instrumental in guiding Sentinel to achieve quality distinctions, including Distinguished Hospital Award, Clinical Excellence, and the prestigious National 100 Top Hospital Award from Truven Healthcare. That is absolutely incredible. Now, please give Linda Bradley a round of applause. That's your cheering section over there, right? Okay. Gerard McCullum II. You're catching on, aren't you? You're catching on to the program, okay. For over 20 years, his experience is just incredible in marketing, public affairs, community development, and strategic planning. He serves as project manager for Wilson Meany, where he oversees the Hollywood Park development. He's also responsible for entitlement, government affairs, community outreach, and the overall project in the Inglewood, California. He's important. Please give a nice round of applause to Gerard McCullum II. The next gentleman I'm going to introduce, and we need to give him a great round of applause as well. He's the general manager here of the fabulous Forum. He's been here for more than 20 years, and his experience is here in Los Angeles, New York, and now here in Inglewood. Since the return to the Forum, it has been his #1, and this is the #1 concert venue on the West Coast. Ladies and gentlemen, how about a nice, fine round of applause for Nick Spaminato. Nick? There's always one in every group, isn't there? Okay. Chris Robert. Chris is the owner of the Robert Group, which is a public affairs firm with expertise in public relations, community outreach, marketing, and strategic communications. How about a nice, fine round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Chris Robert. Ronald Kroll has served as a Senior Vice President of Operations for the Eastern Region at Republic Services, Inc. since 2003. Please, a nice round of applause for Robert Kroll. And we heard from him a little earlier at the top of our program. He is such a nice gentleman, and he has extended his wishes to all of us here. He is the president of the Airport Chamber of Commerce. Please, a nice round of applause for Ronald Talden. Roland, where are you? Where's Roland? Okay. And this next lady is someone that we all need to thank her, because you talk about someone who's making history. She started her own construction company in Colorado. It's called the Alvarado Construction Company. She builds airports, her company does, and stadiums. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, she is one of the owners of the Colorado Rockies in Major League Baseball. Yes, Wow was correct. Please, a nice, fine round of applause for Linda Alvarado. Linda. And now for our presenting sponsors, Sentinel Hospital Medical Center, the Forum, the Alvarado Construction Company. Will you folks please come up? We have some awards for you. Our presenting sponsors, Sentinel Medical Hospital Center, the Forum, and Alvarado Construction. Please come forward. A nice round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our presenting sponsors.
I'll hold Nick's.
Hold Nick, okay.
Okay.
All right. One more time. Nice round of applause for me. Okay.
Let me switch.
All right, our gold sponsors: Hollywood Park Casino, Hollywood Park Land Company, Republic Services, and the Robert Group. Please come forward so you can receive your award. Pictures, pictures, pictures. Smile. Our gold sponsors, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, very quickly, I'd like to go through our bronze sponsors: the City of Inglewood, Duncan Solutions, Faithful Central Bible Church, Golden State Water, Councilman George Dotson, Councilman Alex Padilla, the City National Bank, Inglewood Park Cemetery, Inglewood Today, the Southern California Gas Company, Serco, Home Light Family Living, Councilman Eloy Morales, and Councilman Ralph Franklin, the Inglewood Unified School District, and South Bay Workforce Investment Firm. Give them all, please, a nice round of applause. Now, before I bring up our next speaker, there's one thing I have to tell you about His Honor, the Mayor. Many of you may not know, when the Lakers were playing in this building, Abdul-Jabbar was having some issues, some very serious issues to deal with, and his safety was of major concern. The City of Inglewood, the Lakers, and all of the NBA were wondering who could take care of him. You know who took care of him by himself, without a lot of fanfare? You know who did it, don't you? Mayor Butts. That is absolutely correct. So that tells you how important he is, and his education is absolutely boundless. But I'd like to bring to the podium now an individual who I have a great deal of respect for. He has been in our community and at KNBC for 30 years. He's best known for his Going Rogan, a 30-minute program on Channel 4. He has earned some 30 Emmy Awards, 22 Golden Mike Awards. That many?
Yeah, that's right, Jim.
Woo! He's absolutely incredible. He's one of our best sportscasters and one of the nation's best sportscasters. He just recently he's received so many honors. Recently was bestowed with the Joseph M. Quinn Award for the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Los Angeles Press Club. That was in 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a fine round of applause for Mr. Fred Rogan. Fred.
Thank you, Jim. And by the way, after that wonderful introduction, I think we can all acknowledge in this room, and I'm dead serious, I am an incredible human being. So, Jim, thank you. Thank you very much. You know, the mayor was telling me a couple of years ago, this event was held at the Proud Bird, and the music was supplied by a beatbox. How far have things come in Inglewood in just a very short period of time? You may not realize this, but as a 57-year-old Jewish guy, I often drive around in my car and listen to Tupac and Dr. Dre. Hey, I be spitting truth. And, you know, one of my favorite songs is, you know it, Inglewood up to no good. Let's talk perception, not reality. Let's talk perception for a minute. And by the way, everybody in this room helped change the perception. But let's talk perception. And let's really be honest with each other. Inglewood. Oh my God, you would never go to Inglewood. You would take your life into your hands. Is that not true? Do you not believe that to be true? A perception? That's not the reality. That's a perception. Inglewood. You have a black mayor in a minority community. There is no way possible you guys could get out of your own way. Is that not a perception? It's not true, is it? It's not the reality. If you look at what has happened to this community in a short period of time, a community where so many people for so many years have worked so very hard to try to change that perception. And the man I'll introduce in a moment, you love him, you elected him, even though the first time around the LA Times didn't even put him on the ballot. They tried to keep him off the ballot. Then again, the Times want you not to have football either. So there you go. Behind his leadership, his courage, and his vision, you are sitting in the most magnificent music building in America because of that man's leadership. Because the perception was this could never happen. Nobody's coming to Inglewood to listen to concerts. When the Lakers left, Inglewood's dead. Hollywood Park closed. Inglewood's dead. That was the perception. You know it to be true. You know what? Inglewood ain't dead. And you want to know something else? In a couple of years, oh, I think we have some Rams fans in the back. Do we? Okay. In a couple of years, when the Los Angeles Rams are playing in an 80,000-seat stadium just across the street from here, when you talk about the wood, it won't be Hollywood, folks. It'll be Inglewood. Perception is a funny thing. It carries the narrative oftentimes. It carries a narrative when people don't have the courage or the determination to look deeper, to understand, to appreciate the resolve of everyone in this room, to appreciate how everyone in this room wants Inglewood to be a destination. And it will be. And each and every one of you should be very proud of that. So the man who has contributed greatly and led you to this point, he was the police chief in Santa Monica, which truly was an incredible feat because when you think of Santa Monica, rarely would you think they would have a black police chief. I believe for 15 years. He was at LAX. When the LA Times put out a report on how the new stadium here in Inglewood could be the site of a terror attack, the thing they didn't understand is that the mayor actually worked for like Homeland Security at LAX. He pretty much knew that wasn't going to fly. Seriously, he never wanted to be mayor. He never wanted to run for public office because he didn't want to lie to people. He didn't want to tell one person one thing and one person another because that's not how he is. And by doing what he's done, being true to himself and true to the community, he has led you to this point. I am privileged to introduce him. I am honored to consider him a dear friend. He is your mayor, James T. Butts.
One for Jim and one for Fred.
Please sit down. I should be standing for you. I have to tell you that between Fred and Jim Hill, that's a pretty hard couple acts to follow, but I just want to say a couple things. First, I want to thank all of you for the support you have given us, the council, George Dotson, Alex Padilla, Eli Morales, Ralph Franklin, and myself. Because we've come, in the evolution of cities, we've come a long ways very fast. But this is not something that happens with the efforts of 5 people. What we did by getting that initiative to where we could do something with it took the will of an entire community. And like Fred said, 2 years ago, we would have this event at the Proud Bird, and you know, we were doing okay. We'd have 100, 120 people, and Sabrina, who's like a star, she brought her little boom box, and that was where the music came from, and we were good. But today, we're as good as anybody and better than most. And this is just the beginning of a really great ride. So I want to make a presentation to 2 people who came here for free to be with us. First, for Jim Hill, our Master of Ceremonies, we have this beautiful, beautiful figurine. Jim? Right, look right there.
You should see my dressing room. If I'd known it was this pretty, I would have come last night.
And then Fred's getting ready to interview me, so maybe I'll hold on to his till after the interview. So, and also to our special guest host, Fred Rogan. Please give him a big hand. Okay.
Thanks, Mayor.
Have a seat.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to start the address, which will be done a little differently. It's going to be done in an interview format, and there are going to be some graphics so that you can, so that you can better appreciate, some of the things we're talking about. And then we're going to have a presentation by HKS on the stadium. That's for you. Set that on Jim's. Go, wait a minute. Hand him my little gizmo.
Don't you think that the mayor is pretty statuesque, strutting across the stage in that manner, commanding the presence of the room? Okay, I have some questions, and what we did here is the mayor wants to cover a number of topics, and I was given some topics. I've formulated some questions for the mayor, and I hope he'll address some of the questions you may have about this. Let's begin, Mayor. The City of Inglewood has gone through a major transformation over the last 4 years. From the brink of bankruptcy, the city has poised itself to become an entertainment and retail mecca. Detroit, Stockton, Vallejo, San Bernardino, confronted with similar challenges after the recession and housing market crash in 2009, and actually did become financially insolvent. Other cities remain in financial distress. Chicago and New Jersey have multi-billion-dollar unfunded pensions and a retirement health benefit problem that threatened to bankrupt them as well. What did Inglewood do, Mayor, that these cities were unable to accomplish?
Well, I would tell you that Inglewood was situated similarly to all those cities that you mentioned, and a lot of other cities are in the same situation, and this is the main reason. Philosophically and ideologically, elected officials think of cities as job banks and benefit banks. And because one of the keys to being elected and reelected is to have union support, they dare not talk about the things that will bankrupt them. In the days of the stock market, when it was riding high, cities survived and thrived in spite of themselves. But when there comes a recession, the cities that don't do the things that are fiscally responsible and prudent, they risk going out of business. So we had an unfunded liability of over $330 million in a retirement medical program that we had for all employees that would have bankrupted us in 2017. When I took office in 2011, we were down to our last $11 million. We were really bankrupt from an auditing of the books basis because we owed our employees $14 million in sick and vacation leaves. If they all left at once, we wouldn't have been able to pay them. But because everybody doesn't leave, we still had money. But at that rate, burning $50,000 a day more than we were taking in revenues, we would have been cash flow bankrupt by the end of June. So what did we do? We shed 140 positions from our payroll, and it was tough. Our employees sacrificed. They took a 10% furlough. We worked for less, but did more. We outsourced our parking control. We used to have 25 people in-house, but of those, only half were ever at work at any one time. And so we entered into a public and private partnership with a Serco, where we retain a certain amount of our revenues, but they guarantee us that there will be 25 parking checkers working every day, no matter what. Now, I don't know if everybody's happy about that, but that saved us about $1.4 million a year. We outsourced our tree trimming operation. We had 3 employees, and we used to do, if we were lucky, 1,200 trees a year. Well, now we saved $500,000 by outsourcing, and now we do 6,000 trees a year, 5 times as much. We have 19,000 trees in our inventory, so every 3 years we can have everyone's tree trimmed. Because in the end, it's about service. Cities exist to provide service. We can go to the next slide. Street sweeping. We used to have 2 street sweepers, and only one of them was ever really at work. And so, you know, our city didn't look good. Well, now we've outsourced. We have 5 street sweepers, and I think we've saved about $500,000 doing that. So we have sacrificed, done things smarter, and now we've come to the point where we've saved money. So we were down to that last $11 million. Would you go to the financials, Mike? And so you can see there that little bar where the arrow's pointing, that was February 1st of 2011. We were down to $11 million. We started the fiscal year at the bar next to it with $13 million. Between then and now, we've increased your savings account by 209% to $34 million as of last week. There are other things we've done. Cities exist on a few things. Sales tax receipts, property tax receipts, and what we collect in fees for things that we pass through, like water fees. Now, the cities that depend on their indigenous sales taxes and indigenous property taxes, meaning those that are generated by the people within the city, they get by in the best of times, and they struggle whenever there's a recession, and they never, ever really grow. So we have positioned ourselves with some things we're going to talk about later, where we have an anticipated growth in our sales tax and use revenues. And as you can see, by 2016-17 or 2017, we'll be at a little over $15 million in sales taxes. And that's a $3 million increase over where we started. But it's anticipated when we break ground on the stadium project in December that in that next tax year, we will derive about $15 million in sales tax from just the construction materials that will be purchased as the point of sale here in Inglewood. As you can see, that takes the sales taxes off the chart. That's going to give us the ability to do some things that we've needed to do for a long time. And we're going to talk about public safety in a minute, but that's going to be the fundamental vehicle so that we can increase the size of the police department. Can we go to the next one? No city will thrive and do well if it's dirty, if its roads are in need of repair, it doesn't have a viable water infrastructure, and its buildings aren't maintained. So we went a number of years here without doing any street repairs. And if we go to the first two bars in 2010, 11, 12, you can see by looking at the bars, we did about 2 miles of streets in those years. The next year we did 3 miles of streets. And that, we did nothing really before that. But in the last 2 years, we have done, and you'll see when the graph populates, if Michael keeps hitting the space bar, you'll see that we've done 25 miles of streets in the last 2 years in street construction. That's had a big impact on the way that our residents feel about our city. And then we move forward, we have some big projects on the horizon. Century Boulevard, which we all know has needed reconstruction for probably the last 15 years, will finally start in August of this year. We should applaud for that. That's a $40 million project, and it'll be it'll go from Van Ness to La Cienega, and I think we have a rendering of what it's going to look like artistically when we're done. A lot better than it looks now. We also have major projects for Van Ness Boulevard. That's going to be, I believe, a $3 million project, reconstruction of Van Ness, and also Imperial Highway. And so whoever keeps sending me that email about Imperial Highway, that's going to be done this year too. I have to tell you, there's a drawback to, I'm mayorjamesbutts@gmail.com, and there's a drawback for having such an easy email to find because I get these emails at 3 in the morning. So, Fred.
Okay, Mayor. Now, one issue that is concerning to a lot of people, and that is water main breaks. You know, the one in Westwood flooded UCLA, washing over 20 million gallons and wasting gallons of water. I guess my question is, when it comes to water, fixing things, what is the status of infrastructure renewal here in Inglewood?
Okay, well, before we get to public safety, we'll talk about water. When I came into office, we had not raised water rates since 2003. And in the meantime, and Gloria Gray from the Water District will attest to this, the water costs for the city had tripled. And so what does that mean? That meant money that should have been aside for renewal of the water system to replace sewer and pipe went to purchase water. And here's something that politicians do. They don't spend money on things that people can't see. And waters and sewers mains are underneath the ground. And the only time you know there's a problem is when things have gone so bad for so long that it erodes the roadway and there's a sinkhole. And I think most of us remember there was a period of time when it seemed like every month there was a sinkhole somewhere in our roadway system. That means water leaked underground for quite a long time. And so shortly after I was in office, there were 3 of us at the time, Councilman Morales, Councilman Franklin, and myself, and we voted to raise water rates. And that was a real popular thing. I get shivers just thinking about it. But it was absolutely necessary. And so now We've gone from doing no water infrastructure repair to somewhere between 2 and 3 miles a year. And we've had a great public works department, and they've done a great job. So we've been paying attention to the things that cities have to do to be viable for economic development.
In last week's Times, it was reported that violent crime is up 27% last year in the city of Los Angeles. That's a huge jump. Are you having the same problem in Inglewood?
Well, actually, and I'm going to correct that, because that number was 27% from January to March of this year compared to January of March of last year. And last year, and that was violent crime alone in the city of Los Angeles, and last year they had a 14% jump in crime in the city of Los Angeles. We have not had the same experience. We had a 1% increase of about 44 crimes overall in the city of Inglewood for violent crime. And actually, over the last 5 years, we have the 5 lowest consecutive years of recorded crime in this history of Inglewood. And it's up here on the screen, Fred, and you can see it's pretty dramatic where we've come from. We started keeping crime stats in 1978. Inglewood is the safest it has ever been, and not just this year as an anomaly, but that's consistently for the last 5 years. And I want to give the police department a big hand. And Chief Ranarata in particular, because they have done this with the smallest size police force that I know of since I was hired. When I was hired on in 1974, we had 163 officers. Now we've made it back up to 199, just under 200. We've hired 10 officers in the last year, and it's the council's objective to hire 10 more officers in each of the two succeeding years, because we really have to give our police officers some more support.
All right, Mayor, what can you tell me about independent economic indicators outside of the City of Inglewood's own Verify the City's indicators of progress? How do we know what you're saying is the real deal and you're going forward?
And that's a great question, because politicians seldom tell you the bad news and they hype the good news. But I would tell you we've been studied by the Los Angeles Business Journal, the Planning Report. They're both nationwide business publications, and they have given us glowing reviews on how we've handled the city's finances. But probably the biggest indicator of the desirability and improvement in the city is its property values. Now, how do you have a barometer for that? Well, thanks to Glenda Brass and Ted Brass, they gave me some real estate information. They do it continuously. And you take a measure of all the properties that are sold in a given year, from the lowest to the highest. You determine averages, you determine what the median is, but you take an average of the price of all properties sold, and that way you can tell realistically what's happening with your property values. Well, since 2012, the average property values of homes actually sold in the city have gone up 51.4%. And I can say without fear of contradiction, there's probably no place else in the country that's experienced that type of an increase. And then another thing that cities do, when you borrow money, you have to go out to the bond market. Now, bonds are not insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, meaning that if you default, the bondholders are just stuck. And so therefore, your rating by the ratings agencies makes a big difference in the interest rate you pay to borrow money. Now, we're not borrowing any money right now, but there will come a time when we have to build a new city hall or a new police station, and the interest rate you pay can make a difference of up to $1 million a year in debt service. Well, Moody's, the premier investment service, investors guidance service, has raised the city's bond rating. They did that in February of this year for our bonds and general obligation debt. And that's a big testimony to where Inglewood has come.
I think for the people in the room, quite frankly, when you talk about real estate prices, we all understand that in Southern California.
Everybody
That's
does.
the one thing we know. And you know, what's the rule of buying real estate here? Location, location, location.
Inglewood, Inglewood, Inglewood.
That's what I was going to say. Did you ever think the location would be Inglewood? That's where you can get your best value. Tell you what, when that residential goes up across the street, I'll be on that list at the beginning. Explain redevelopment agency, please. Its allowable uses of agency funds, abolishment of the agency, necessity for entertainment anchors, how the development agreement for the forum was swiftly followed by investment pledges for the Hollywood Park Tomorrow project.
Is that a question or answer?
Oh, I just read his answer. Okay. Okay, now, let me say this. Let me say this. I'm going to ask a question. I think I'm going to know the answer. Mayor, can you tell us about the deal that brought the forum to Inglewood? There are a few in the community that complain about the $18 million redevelopment loan. You know the question, how did the forum get here and how did you pay for it? Go ahead. But I know the answer, but I got this one. Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, you know, there was a time when we had what was called the redevelopment agency in California. And the city of Inglewood actually comes from a piece of what's called property tax increment. And it was set aside to provide stimulus monies for cities to help economic development. Now, this was a very valuable tool for cities like Inglewood because all things being equal, someone that's going to start a major business, make a major investment, they're going to start it in a place where there's the least risk. And so what redevelopment did, we used to get about $20 million a year for redevelopment. And we could use it to buy property and sell it to a business entity cheaper or at a total discount to encourage them to start their business here. And we would benefit because we would derive the sales taxes from business they did, and we get property taxes from the business. Well, a couple years ago, Governor Brown and the legislature abolished redevelopment, and we were down to our last allotments of redevelopment money, and we obligated $18 million for rehabilitation loan to an unknown entity, and at that time it had not been identified. And we negotiated with the forum, and there were different iterations of the deal, but we obligated that $18 million to the rehabilitation of the forum with the understanding that Madison Square Garden would have to spend at least $50 million in repairs to the forum. They would have to purchase it from Faithful Central Bible Church, which they did for about $23 million. In the end, they spent $100 million to renovate this building. And we all love them for that, don't we? But what the people that complained about that expenditure didn't understand was that the city of Inglewood could not use that money on very many things. And if we did not use it, then it would have gone back to the state. And we would have been entitled, as one of the taxing entities when it was divided up, we would have got about $3 million. Well, in our agreement with the forum, we had a clause that said that we had to average at least $600,000 in direct taxes from the operation of the forum over a 3-year period. And if we didn't make that $600,000 threshold over 3 years, the Madison Square Garden would actually cut us a check for the difference. Well, it worked out much better than that. But within 5 years, less than 5 years, we'll have made that $3 million we could have gotten by turning the money back to the agency, and we have the forum. So it was a very, very wise investment decision. And the forum has been the actual economic anchor for the revitalization of the city. And we really, really appreciate Madison Square Garden and Live Nation. In fact, Nick and I were just talking at lunch that it was hoped that we would have 22 events in the first year. In the first year, we had over 60 events here in this building, and within 11 months, the Forum was the #1 concert venue in the greater Los Angeles area. In fact, it had twice as many concerts as the Staples Center. I always love to say that. But in addition to that, Hollywood Park Tomorrow broke ground in February 2014 after the Forum opened January 15th. And in that year, Curbed LA, which is an internet magazine which deals with real estate concerns, named the City of Inglewood LA's best neighborhood for 2014. So it isn't just us that feels this way.
No, not at all. Now I want to continue, but do you want me to give you the answer before I ask the question again?
Adam obviously does good research for you, though.
It was terrific. It was great. All right, you guys want to hear about the NFL? What it's going to mean?
Because that's what they're here for.
Okay, let's get down to it, Mayor. So when exactly did you get together with the guys from the Hollywood Park Land Company? When exactly did you start formulating the plan? I know you were redeveloping that property across the street, but when did you say, we're going to put a football stadium in there? How did it come together?
Well, actually, that was never quite the dialogue. This discussion about football started probably 6 to 7 months after I took office, and I talked with Mark Davis a lot about it, you know, and there were probably 3 multi-billion-dollar consortiums that approached me to talk about buying the 60 acres that Walmart owned at the time and building a football stadium. But I had received communications from Mr. Grubman, I think he's the vice president of the NFL, in charge of relocations, and he sent me a letter and he called me and he let me know that any deal that didn't have a team attached to it had very limited likelihood that it would have come to fruition.
He contacted you and told you that?
Yes.
Okay.
And so with that, armed with that information, you know, I let everyone that was interested know that. Now, every entity that wanted to buy that property, they wanted a fallback to be guaranteed that they would be able to develop housing for it. It's only zoned for parking right now. And they wanted us to commit to allowing to be zoned for parking, for housing. But I let them know, first of all, it's a decision the whole council would have to make in public without collaboration. But more importantly, that I was opposed to it from a philosophical sense, because that had always been overflow parking for the Forum. And so what I'd hoped to see was a use that was compatible with the continued parking operation for the Forum. So we came to a point where at some point, you know, I talked to Mr. Kroenke, and then at some point he bought the 60 acres, and then at some point, these are all stories waiting to be told later.
I was going to say, you're being kind of vague on the points, Mayor.
Exactly, and then at some point, everybody got together on the other side of the street and decided that, you know, they'd get into a joint venture that resulted in the Citizens Initiative to rezone that property for sports, to include a sports entertainment zone, which was going to include an 80,000-seat NFL specification stadium and a 6,000-seat performing arts theater. And the reason it's very important that we say the term NFL specification stadium, because everyone knew at that time that there was no guarantee that that any team would be allowed to move here. But the philosophy was that if you build the most magnificent and most beautiful stadium in the world, and the most expensive, that it probably wouldn't be vacant for too very long. And so a lot of people went out on faith and made a very bold move, just like our bold move in spending $18 million towards the rehabilitation of the Forum, and it looks like that bold move will pan out too.
The key here in all of this, and when the announcement was made, and the mayor and I actually know each other because he is a frequent guest on our radio show on the Beast 980. And before the mayor came on, I had Chris Meany, who worked for Hollywood Park, the developers.
Let's give Chris a hand.
And everybody in the room should know, and I'm being 100% honest, that when this story first broke, they thought this would never happen. They thought your mayor was a rank amateur. True?
True.
Well above your head, and couldn't figure it out. True story. And I said to Chris Meany, and it was about a 5-second bite, and it really ignited everything. And most people didn't pick it up. I said, Chris, are you going to build this stadium no matter what? Because you understand with the NFL, there's protocol, there's procedure, and no one will do anything without the approval of the NFL. So when I asked him, are you going to build this stadium no matter what? His response was, yes, we are building the stadium no matter what. And at that point, Mayor, that's true. And at that point isn't when everything started to accelerate about 500 miles an hour.
Absolutely. That's when everybody got panicked. You see, because when we had the press conference, Hollywood Park Land Company had one on their property, and we had a press conference at City Hall that this project was going to move forward, and that actually that the initiative had been filed. That's when everybody started to take us seriously, and that's when people started to really get panicked that we might be able to pull this off.
So in this journey that you have been on, there have been many highs, victories that you have celebrated with your staff, you've celebrated personally, milestones that needed to be accomplished along the way, but people have taken a lot of shots at you. Mm-hmm. They've taken a lot of shots at the city of Inglewood. Mm-hmm. What has that been like?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. We don't even get to the point where we can be in a position to take advantage of an opportunity without a lot of hard work from city employees and from the city managers that we've had. You know, Artie Fields, Mark Weinberg, our chief financial officer, our assistant city managers, the managers in the departments. Because you see, if we don't fix this city in a responsible, fiscally prudent manner, no one thinks about spending billions of dollars of investment money, capital here. If we don't, if we didn't get our act together, Hollywood Park Land Company, who has been our friend and stayed with us through some very, very bad years when other companies would have just bankrupted their limited liability corporation and moved on, they stayed here with us. And so if our employees don't do what they've done to fix this city, we don't get to this point where we have this opportunity. Now we get to where we're at the point where we're ready, we're poised to seize an opportunity. Because I always say there is no luck. Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. Then first thing that was said was, oh, they're playing Inglewood. No one would ever put a football team there. You know, it's Inglewood. And then they said, oh, they might pull it off, so no, there must be something crooked about them voting to vote it in, as though...
You took illegal contributions,
absolutely.
didn't you?
Yeah, no, that's what they said.
Oh, yeah.
And so as if you would elect 5 people to sit there like dummies and let an opportunity go by and not vote it into action and life at the first opportunity when 22,000 people, more people never voted in an election here, say we'd like to see it happen. But you see, that was the games that were being played. And the council stood resolute. The community stood resolute when people tried to trick them into putting it up for a referendum. And here we sit right now, poised to go ahead and see this thing through to completion.
Is it not true, Mayor? Is it not true, as you were getting down to the bottom line and trying to put this deal together with the unions, I won't ask you to be specific on some of it, but I will ask this. Did you not commit that 35% of the jobs would go to Inglewood residents?
That's always been the agreement between us and Hollywood Park Land Company. It's been the agreement between us and the Forum. Madison Square Garden committed to that same hiring goal. There are 600 Inglewood residents today that have jobs that didn't have them on January 14th when the Forum was about to open. And that's huge for us. And so in the negotiations with the unions, one of the things that Gerard, Chris, and the negotiating team kept in mind was that we had to structure any agreements in a way that would not shut out Inglewood residents. And that's what they did, and I want to thank them for that.
So at this point in time, I guess the next question becomes, for the people that are interested and the folks in the back that are Ram supporters here.
Are there any Ram supporters here?
Oh, there are Ram supporters here, Mayor. I think what people really want to know, and I don't know how much you can say. I know you did have a meeting with the National Football League about a week and a half ago. I know they were in town and talked to Carson as well. I'll get to Carson in a minute. But Mayor, everybody's excited. Everybody in this room wants to see this happen. They believe that the stadium is spectacular, and we're going to have some slides of it in a bit. And you'll see the presentation, by the way, that I think NFL owners saw. So you guys are pretty lucky about that. But Mayor, is it really going to happen? Are you really going to build this stadium?
Let me see how I answer that. That's like asking me, am I really going to go to work tomorrow? I'm going to go to work tomorrow. Unless I get hit by a bus or something, I'm going to work. So I guess unless Gerard and them get hit by buses.
You're building a stadium.
We're building a stadium.
Nice. You are very careful never to mention, and you've not done it on the radio, you've not done it when we've done television, and you've not done it today in front of these people, although I oftentimes try to trick you up and have had no success. You've never mentioned the Rams are coming, Mayor. You've mentioned you're building a stadium. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us any more than you're building a stadium?
All I can tell you is that when it comes to relocation, there's 32 owners in the NFL and the commissioner of the NFL that make those decisions. And so what we can do is actually just what we've done all along. We've positioned ourselves to be the best option. And I believe if you look at all the different iterations of stadium deals that are being looked at and proposed, you would see that ours is the most solid. We have an owner that owns land. We have an owner that can finance the project himself. We actually have the largest contiguous block of open land in Southern California. It's close to 300 acres. It's twice the size of the Vatican. It already happened to be entitled for a $2 billion mixed-use development, and this was just an add-on because we already had entertainment there. We had the racetrack. The racetrack used to run 41,000 during the week, 100 meets a year. For a big meet, they'd have 65,000 people on an outbound that would run into an inbound of, for the Lakers, of about 17,658, which used to be the maximum. And so we flowed 60,000 people here before, 80,000 people on some days. We flowed that kind of traffic for decades. So what do? We've proven we can handle the traffic. We have an owner that owns the land. It's financed. You show me any other project that's proposed right now in any other city that comes close to those kind of qualifications. And we're going to break ground in December.
Well, even though you're not saying that a certain team may be moving here, I'll tell you this, and I think everybody in this room should be very excited about the possibility. If there is no NFL team in that stadium, Inglewood High is going to have a hell of a home field. Some monster truck stuff is going to be big. All right. Dare I bring up Carson, or do we leave that alone?
I mean, it depends on how you say it. I wouldn't say anything bad about anybody's project, but it depends on what do you want to ask.
I want to ask, and I say this all the time, so let me editorialize for a second, because if you read in the paper or you listen to television, people will tell you the race is on. Here comes the race. And I always say the same thing, erase the race. There is no race. It doesn't exist. One site, as I like to say, has the man, the team, the land, and the money. One. And I can tell you that perhaps what you hear about Carson in some of the details, not all have fully been revealed. They are not as far along. They are not as buttoned up. Mayor, do you consider them a viable site? Could they challenge you?
Well, you know, since I've been mayor, I've learned a lot more about a lot of things I never thought that I'd have to bother to. And this is just another one of those things. And from what I've learned along the way on this journey, you know, it amazes me the scrutiny that we got from the larger press and media of every aspect of what we were going to do that seems to escape them when it comes to that site a little bit south of here. I mean, they get away with saying that they're going to buy the land at the end of the month, and no one asks them, did you buy the land? And to my knowledge, they never bought the land.
I asked them that yesterday, Mayor. They haven't bought the land yet.
Okay, you know, it's no secret that, you know, that's a former landfill, and that there's more remediation needs to be done. And that doesn't mean it can't be done, but, you know, one of the things I understand has to happen is that they have to cart away somewhere between 3 and 6 stories of dirt over 157 acres, destroy it, put a plastic tarp over what lies beneath, bring in fresh dirt, and then construct a methane gas pumping system that will have to operate into perpetuity at a cost of somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 a month. Now that doesn't mean it can't be done, but if that were us, oh my God! So no,
you wouldn't get a pass on that, would you?
I don't think
Seriously.
we'd get a pass on it. But that being said, you know, from what I've learned, it could be done, but I don't know that they could start to construct it before 2018, finish it before 2020.
And
if it were a race, it's not, but go ahead.
No, so if you break ground this December, you're done 2018?
We're playing football 2018.
The sketches are next. Final question. We sit here today, and you've done a terrific job of explaining things. You've got everything positioned. Everyone in this room says, well, Mayor, you said you're ready to go. Why don't we just start next Monday? Why can't you start next Monday?
Well, you know, there are actually things that you still have to do. You have to go through the construction permitting process, make sure that everything is done as the plans say they will be done, so that everything's done with maximum safety in mind. And so we imagine that process will culminate sometime the first week of December, if not sooner, but that's the target date for the developers. And we are doing everything we can to hire the specialized consultants that will be needed to make sure the city's not a bottleneck for this process. We have a reciprocal agreement with Hollywood Park Land Company that they will reimburse us for all expenses that we incur for this consultant work that we'll need done.
Oh, but final thing. So how much money, because the people in here want to know this. So let's say the development is finished, the stadium is built. All right, so what does the city make a year?
Well, the projections are, and it's the beautiful thing about the initiative that the point of sale for all construction materials will be here in the city of Inglewood. And that's pretty critical because we don't have anybody that manufactures concrete and girders here. And so we would want to reap the benefit of those sales taxes. So everything that's purchased for the construction of the stadium will be purchased on paper here in Inglewood. So we reap those sales taxes. So the first year, we estimate it'll be about $15 million in just sales taxes for the materials, maybe $14 million the year after that. But the expectation is that we'll get up to the point where we're netting somewhere around $25 million a year.
That's new money, right, Mayor? New money in?
New money. And when you look at our average general fund being somewhere between 79 and 82 million, you can see that buys a lot of pencils and paper clips. That's a joke, you guys.
Because you might not be aware of what political humor is, and he's the mayor. So if he tells a joke, you laugh. Who wants to see the stadium? Who's in?
Okay, well, it's a pleasure to bring up an old friend of mine, old friend of ours. Everybody knows him. I always say this about Chris Robert, Gerard McCallum. They have the unique ability, no matter who they work for, to make everybody feel they're your friend. And that's a unique ability because they're genuine people. And so I want to bring up Gerard McCallum, who's going to introduce one of the architects from HKS, who's going to give you a display and an understanding about the stadium that hasn't been seen before. Gerard, you here? They got you trapped, right? You introduce your friend?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see everyone. I was joking a little bit earlier with Chris. We've done these town halls for well over 10, 11 years, and they've never been like this before. In fact, it used to be hard for us to fill our tables. Now we had so many requests. So thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you again, Mayor Butts, for this opportunity to present the new Hollywood Park project. As you know, we've been working on this project for a little bit over 10 years, and so we had a little tweak beginning of this year in which we added a sports and entertainment district. And I think not to just kind of belabor it, because we've been going a little bit long here, I'm going to actually let Lance Evans, part of HKS, who has been the driving architect for the stadium, and many of the images you've seen in the paper have been generated out of this gentleman here, and he'll give a little background about himself and also the company and what we're going to be presenting to you September 2018. Lance?
Hold on one second, Lance. Nobody wants to go home now, do you? Okay, Lance, you carry on.
I'll promise to keep it quick. And Gerard is generous, but I have a team of architects and designers that are helping us really define what this place wants to be. I show you this slide just to give you a little bit of experience about HKS, and it's not to like float our boat, but these are the three, or will be the three best stadiums in the NFL, and there's a little spot for a fourth one at the end. And I show this to you just so you can understand that each one of those is different. You know, they were designed for their specific place and their specific market. And what we really have here is a promise to everyone here that what we're going to design is creating an authentic expression of what it's like to be Southern California. The building is going to embody this region, this culture. And we did that in a number of ways. First, one of the things we always do at the beginning of projects and designs is think about what are the key aspects of what we're trying to do. Some of these notions, I'm going to flip through really quickly through the slides, are this notion of the embedded object. We see a lot of civic structures in LA and in the general Southern California regions that do this type of architecture. You look at the Getty, we look at the Hollywood Bowl, we look at Dodger Stadium, how they actually are integrated into the land and become one with the city. I think this is a really important one for us, not on just the fact that we are in Hollywood, the entertainment capital of the world, but we just happen to be right next door to one of the busiest airports in the world. And so this stadium for us is really a beacon for Inglewood. It's going to be a global stage. It's going to be a destination. People are going to come from all over the world to embody this and watch this stadium and come to be here in this place. This is kind of quintessential why a lot of us are here in Los Angeles now, is this opportunity. And this stadium is going to embody this idea more than any, indoor, outdoor. I'm going to show you some images and some slides of what the stadium is going to be, and I want you to pay attention to this fact that this is a promise that we've made, is to make this stadium completely open to its environments and its surroundings. So what is this stadium designed for? 2 NFL teams, a capacity of up to 80,000, expandable over that for Super Bowls. We have a flexible venue, able to host a myriad of events and activities. One of the great things, and I'll kind of walk you through how the Kool-Aid was made or how the stadium was developed, was the opportunity for us to incorporate a 6,000-seat performance venue, but also a grand outdoor room, about 2.5 acres, that links the two facilities together and really makes this stadium something truly unique. So I'll walk quickly through what this is. I love this image, just of how we come in and out of LAX, and I do a lot of traveling. I'm fortunate enough to do it. I always sit on the right-hand side of the plane, and I think everyone else is going to fly into LA. Once they do it once, they're going to be on that right side with me. So what is this park? When we came together with Gerard and Mayor, and we started to think about what this place wanted to be, 300 acres of land, we knew that we didn't want to put a stadium in the middle of this property surrounded by a sea of parking. That just wasn't going to fly. The words community a great place to be, kept going around. And so we decided to put a big public park in the middle of this development, in the middle of the surroundings, and then connect that park with 3 big arcs that connect the corners to make this a very porous environment, something that's connected to the citizens, everyone can enjoy. And then we surround it with the development itself, the stadium up in the northeast corner of the site, retail at the bottom of the page, mixed-use residential and commercial. And what that makes is a really unique and transformative environment, someplace that you're going to see. Imagine this from the air or experience it from the ground, the lush landscape, the lake park in the center, being in the retail environment on the edges, and if we're fortunate enough, watching the Super Bowl here in a couple years. So one of the things you saw around the stadium was this unique network of greenscape. And working in association with Mia Lair Architects, one of the preeminent landscape architects in Los Angeles, we developed a story and a strategy for the landscape. We decided not to take unique plants from all over the world, but we wanted to do something that was local to Southern California. And so our stadium is actually going to be kind of educational journey across Southern California. You can see the regions up on the screen on the right. And so when you come here, you're actually going to get a story about what the place is or the landscape that makes up Southern California, makes us love this, this journey. But what it also allows us to do is actually play with the scale. You look at the top right image, that's the west elevation, where we're trying to make a statement about the building and what the building is and what it wants to be. The bottom image you see is elevation on the east, where we're fronting a residential neighborhood. We're trying to be good neighbors and decrease the scale of the building. And so our landscape allows us to do that. We're allowed it to shed the building as much as we can with a network of lush vegetation. One thing I have to mention with all that landscape, though, is it's not only educational, but it's water-wise. All these plants are native to the region, and we're going to be really responsible with the way that we treat that. And so this is kind of the nuts and bolts of why we're building what we're building. And it's all the myriad of events. You see the Super Bowl, you see the potential for a Final Four, but you also see the opportunity for a farmer's market or a kids' flag football game. That's something that's very important to us, is this notion of scale, that this thing has to be extremely scalable, the stadium. I'm going to go through this really fast just to tell you about how the stadium itself was derived. We can't limit the fact that we are actually next to LAX, and so we have to acknowledge that. And we've actually embedded the stadium in the ground, just like our kind of ancestors with the Dodger Stadium and the Getty, as we mentioned. But what it did here is it allowed us to really be a great neighbor. Where a stadium would be 300 feet in the air, we're allowed to really reduce that scale and becoming something more appropriate to the neighborhood itself. We wanted to know that, or wanted to ensure to have all these events that I just described in the slides before, that we were actually able to do so. And so we put a great canopy over it. We're calling it a canopy, and it's not an enclosed stadium. And so what we had to do was really sculpt and define what that canopy wanted to be. It was informed by all those drivers that I mentioned in the past, the coastline of Southern California, the sweeping curves, the energy of a wave, the energy of the freeway system. All these things kind of came together for us and really embodied what the stadium was. We then tweaked the design and the roof itself to allow for structural or lateral stabilization for this region, and a place was very important to us to strategically tie this stadium into where it is. We supplemented that with a series of vertical columns. They allow us two things. This is a very different form of the building. And so what we wanted to do is put a little nostalgia in. So we have a series of vertical columns that wrap around 3 sides of the venue, kind of echoing the past. And I think you guys walked through a venue very similar to what I'm speaking of today. And then materiality. We divided the canopy into 2 big main moves. One was an ETFE roof, a clear, transparent roof, which allowed ultimate connectivity to the sky and to the environments. And the second was a perforated metal skin. And the skin itself is going to allow light and air to filter in and throughout the stadium, so you get a kind of ever-changing pattern of shadows as you go throughout the day. And, I haven't mentioned any walls, and I've said this is going to be completely indoor-outdoor, and that's our goal. This is truly just a canopy. All the concourses will be open to the environment, connected to the landscape, connected to Southern California. It's going to be truly unique, one-of-a-kind venue that we have. And as I mentioned, the programmatic synergy, there's 3 venues really that are here. We have the performance venue, the outdoor room, and the stadium itself. All could be working in tandem, all could be working independently. I think it gives us amazing flexibility for what this place could be. So a little bit about ETFE. If you don't know it, this was actually a material used on the water cube in the Beijing Olympics. But what it is, it's actually has all the qualities of glass. It allows all the light to come through the glass does, but it's 1% of the weight. And so that allowed us to create one of the lightest roof structures around for such a large scale. You can see that on the diagram here, this is like kind of what we do as architects to describe how the building's put together. The ETFE is on the top layer, and then it's followed by a series of layers that we kind of build what we call, the enclosure of the machine with the perforation, the metal. And what that does, though, is it really defines, the stadium itself. You see one of these anchor points where the roof touches down, and the southern end kind of take off in two different directions. Each one of these 4 arcs around the stadium really define the entries into the building. And so we don't have these are the main identifiers for it, but it also allows connectivity into the other spaces and places of the site, like the lake park here you see on the left-hand side of the image. And I talked about this notion of scalability. We designed it for 100,000, 80,000 seats, but 100,000 people potentially. But it also has to be, a nice place to be on other events. So this might be a red carpet event or a premiere happening at the performance venue, something that's scaled appropriately. This is my favorite shot of the whole venue. This is showing kind of our view looking back to the Hollywood Park. If we were in the Forum looking back, you see the long, kind of smooth, graceful arcs that's going to connect the two anchor points here on the northern elevation. And those arcs are cascading down, if you look to the left-hand side of the page, and followed by a series of those vertical columns. And as they go down, what they define is really a different character on the opposite side. This is the eastern side of the stadium, which faces the residents to the east. The stadium is actually lowers its stance, and that's something that was very, very important to us and a really benefit of us going in the ground 100 feet. Like if we put Cowboys Stadium right next to this and we did a comparison, it would be about 100 foot taller than the image that's on the screen, or about twice as big as what you're seeing there. So it was a really great opportunity to allow it to happen. This is a wonderful shot looking over the lake park. You could kind of imagine yourself sitting there on a lazy Saturday afternoon having a picnic, really with this stadium in your foreground, as your background, and just the wonderful opportunities that it entails. And so how do you get in there? I was showing you 2 of the main entries. This one's on the north. What we've done is we've embedded the access points all along each one of those touchdowns. And so we have a series of stairs, escalators, and elevators that will take you up and around the stadium, allowing you to kind of get up close and personal to the skin. Allow the light to be dancing off your face, allow you to feel the air pass through the movement, really allowing that connectivity. You see the landscape is going to be continued and sprinkled throughout the concourses. I think this stadium is going to be no longer, you're walking into a concrete jungle, but this is going to be pretty transformative. The idea of the park continuing into the stadium itself is really key. This is the outdoor room. So this was looking through into Lake Park into the space, and this is how the majority of the people went into the stadium. Underneath this massive canopy, 2.5 acres in size, something that's really scalable and lovely as it relates to the functions and activities that could happen in the space. Your water features cascading down, the steps, landscape happening on multiple levels, and you could see all sorts of events, community events happening in this space. The circulation for other avenues, we call these canyons, but since we're going in the ground, that 100 feet, we wanted to really add the landscape and allow that language to transform and continue into the building. So you have a series of these around the stadium itself, each one of them different, each one of them size and space appropriately and connected to the landscape language that we were describing earlier. And so that takes us to the interior. Completely immersed in the latest technology, completely connected to the outdoors with the ETFE roof, completely able to see through and connect to the local community with its open ends. You really create, a really lasting impression about what this is. And, for us, this really is, it's not a stadium anymore. We call this the next evolution of sport. So thank you guys.
So the question always comes up, are we in a race? Wilson Meany builds quality communities throughout California. And most of those transformed communities. We built the Ferry building in Northern California. And if any of you know about that building, people said, oh, they would never go across the railroad tracks. And now it's the third largest destination place in San Francisco. It actually now is part of the covers of the magazines that announce your arrival into San Francisco. We will take the time necessary to build a quality community for this community of the City of Inglewood. Our target date is to start this in December, and we plan to have this open September 2018. But besides the sports and entertainment district, there's actually a lot more to this than parking lots. We are building close to 800,000 square feet of Class A office space to go along with this. That was not possible before in our first iteration before with the project. We've also expanded the retail center another 150,000 square feet so that it becomes really analogous to the Grove and to 3rd Street Promenade. This is a very robust project. 2,500 homes are also scheduled to be built on site, over 26 acres of public park space that will be available to you, the citizens. And then in addition to that, hotel space. That's what everybody's been always asking about, was hotel space.
Movie theater.
And yes. But what you wind up with is actually a retail, a development that is a 24-hour, all-encompassing lifestyle center that it's more than shopping, it's more than sports, it's more than entertainment of any sorts, it's more than jobs, but it's actually where families come and live and experience a whole holistic lifestyle. And so, again, I want to thank you for giving us this brief opportunity. I want to especially thank the citizens of Inglewood who helped us get this initiative through. We made the play, others are following. We made the play, others are following. Okay? Thank you.
One more thing before you go, Gerard. I don't need that. One of the things that was very important to me, and that I feel that we've accomplished, is that like the Forum, even when there's not a game going, the venue's going to be walkable, much like the Getty. And I just want you to expound on that for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The landscape, idea and really the ideation of what that was to create a place that was going to be really a wonderful place to be 365 days a year, not just the times or events were happening. That's the idea of scalability that came to it. And you see it in the outdoor room when I showed you images of the steps and how the landscape and the water features walked around. You can almost picture yourself sitting in there on a Saturday afternoon, enjoying your cup of coffee, enjoying spending time with your kids, playing a football, wrapping around, but then also kind of the ability to walk all the way around the facility, completely open and integrated into the landscape grounds to really experience what this stadium was. Traditionally, when we do sporting venues, in the past, you would see a big gated entry denying access into what the stadium proper was. I think those ideas are going to be kind of dissolved in what we do here, and access is important.
Thank you.
And one of the other things I want to also say in terms of, if you remember that image that Lance showed earlier, where the park's sort of connected in the very center, kind of almost like a tricentric type of arrangement there. The parks are all interconnected. So the 11-acre park on the back end, Bluff Park, that's close to the 11th Avenue residence, all connect in. And so you're able to walk from that to Arroyo Park, to Lake Park, to Champions Park, all the way through the entire development.
Thank you. Okay, I'm about to call Jim Hill up to close us up. I want to thank Jim and Fred Rogan. It was just wonderful for them to come and spend this kind of time. Fred had a radio show that he let go to come here and be with us. So can we please give him a big hand? And I want to acknowledge Sabrina Barnes with what she can do when she has a real sound system. And Pastor Lobdell was just a treat, I mean, I talked to the guy on the phone before I met him, and I thought he was a black guy. And he sings. Oh man, the guy he's tremendous. But Fred, thank you. And you guys remember this. From now on, as good as anybody, better than most. All right, Jim?
Wow, right? A couple of pieces of business to take care of for you folks who received those awards. You can put them in boxes over here when you leave, and things like that. This has been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, very informative, entertaining, and the prospects are absolutely incredible. as I was sitting here and watching and listening, once again, let's have a fine round of applause for Fred Rogan and his honor. As I was sitting and listening and watching how everyone was listening and watching so intently, I was thinking about something that Dr. King once said, when he said, giving back to your fellow mankind is really one of the most noble things that anyone can do. And what could be more noble than giving back to your own community so that our young people can have the best possible place to live, can have the best schools to go up and get a great education, and if they work hard and if they keep the faith, our communities, our cities, our countries will be in a heck of a lot better shape than they are right now. So as we leave today, as we think about what we've seen and what we've heard and the anticipation of what may come or what is to come, the one thing I will tell us all to do is you just believe in the big fellow upstairs and keep the faith. We will be all right. Thank you for coming. Drive safe, everybody.
A lot of these things were years in the making, the last couple years in the making. They culminated with the opening of the Forum, which was purchased by Madison Square Garden on January 14th.
Hello, welcome to the Forum.
I walked in the shoes of Dr. Martin Luther King.
That the sun closes. I would be the same with you.
All mankind and love one another.
I use my words to ignite the fire within, for I trust in God and not in
I must declare their support and admiration on behalf of our residents to His High Holiness, the Dalai Lama.
I know my hope is personally that no one else has to hear the words, "You have cancer."
I am committed to the cause because both myself and my wife are cancer survivors.
This mural is symbolic of the rebirth and revitalization that's going on in our city.
You guys did an absolute wonderful job. This is something we'll always be proud of, and it's something that you will always be proud of.
And so I thought I would make an event that would just be dedicated specifically to the more traditional arts and also the Afro-Latin thread.
This is an absolutely lovely setting to perform, and this park is gorgeous. It's just a total demonstration of community to have something like this in Inglewood and to have a festival like this in Inglewood where the families are invited out.
People just came out and enjoyed all the different styles of music, and people danced. It was really nice.
This is now the largest urban infill project in Los Angeles County, 238 acres.
By having today's Discover District 2 event, it's an opportunity for people to see that Inglewood is not the place to drive through, but the place to drive to. We need to do more things to get our community together. We need to do things that are going to unite everyone.
We're here at Inglewood's 4th Fridays food truck event located on Market Street in downtown Inglewood. We've got music, we've got food, we've got fun. KJLH is here, so let's see what's cooking up.
Hey, it's Josefa Salinas from Hot 92.3 in Los Angeles. We are out here in Inglewood again at the Hispanic Heritage Festival, kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month.
I would not be surprised if the city of Inglewood was awarded maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times for your economic development efforts.
The council and I are living Nike's slogan, just do it. No excuses, just do it.
No.
happy today on this occasion to be able to present bikes to the Inglewood youth.
Inglewood is in the house, and we're here at the fabulous Forum in Inglewood, California.
Over the last 3 years, as many of you know, the City of Inglewood has had the privilege and honor to host a number of historic and memorial events in the city. It's with great pride and joy that I stand here as the leader of Inglewood to announce our participation as a host city for the 2015 Special Olympics.
Today to celebrate a historical event for our district and for our community, the groundbreaking at the Thrifty Oil site.
I'm very pleased about the mayor of the city because he organizes the town hall because he's got a lot to talk about. This mayor has made a believer out of a whole lot of people. Give him a big round of applause.
This is a time of Thanksgiving. We're here today because of the generosity of Snoop Dogg. He said he wants to be part of what we are becoming.
Me and the mayor will be doing a lot of great things. This is just the start. I'm honored to be in the city of Inglewood. Happy to see Inglewood on the rise.
See all the smiling faces and just knowing that you can make someone's week or year, it really makes a difference. And I hope that the people who see this know that they can make a difference. We can all make a difference. We just have to do it.
This is a new Inglewood, everybody. This is the biggest Christmas celebration in the history of this city.
We're celebrating our Christmas holidays with the community of unity. We all are individuals that want to make sure that our community excels, but it all starts with each other.
What a beautiful year it's been. Inglewood is back on the map for all the right reasons. This is what makes Inglewood unique. This is what makes Inglewood a family community.
It's an opportunity for all of us to get together here in the city. I have to say, welcome back to the city of Inglewood.
I always say Inglewood rises.
Inglewood!